Travel isn't just about destinations, it's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
Lunch with Pippa Hudson
on CapeTalk.
Join the conversation.
The conversation is going to turn to travel in just a moment. I'm just checking that we've got our guest standing by on Zoom. Yes, we do. Well, it's, I think, a very timely conversation, this one. As another cold front approaches the Cape, I thought we'd offer you a glimpse of what lies on the other side of winter, because our reward for enduring the cold and wet is the glorious spring flower displays that wait for us on the other end of the season. And today we are traveling to Namaqualand to experience the show from a very special perspective, that of the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. This facility operates for just a couple of weeks of the year during peak wildflower season. And if you happen to be one of the very lucky people who gets to visit during that season, you are in for a very spectacular experience. So we're going on a bit of a flower safari to find out more about this really immersive way of experiencing the flowers. With me via Zoom this afternoon is Charmane Johnston, who is the media and marketing person for Chiefs Tented Camps, who operate this facility. And Charmane, it's great to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Pippa. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for joining us. Before we talk about the camp, let's just set the context here for how and why we come to have this annual display of these glorious carpets of flower. I mean, won't you just remind our listeners the role of the season changes and the rain and the climate in making this transformation happen each year?
It's quite incredible. It really is. This is going to be the 14th year that we go back to Namaqua and set up this camp. And it's an arid region. It's completely arid. And when there's a little bit of winter rainfall, all the seeds that are lying dormant in the ground, when they receive enough moisture, they just start blooming, and it is just absolutely incredible. So the timing, the intensity, the duration of the rains all affect the vibrancy and the spread of the wildflowers, making it really, really unique. So although the arid region is sustained by moisture from the Atlantic Ocean throughout the year, the winter rainfall is really what triggers these carpets of wildflowers, and it's just incredible to see, and obviously best seen on by foot or on your knees. It's just beautiful.
We'll talk about experiencing it on foot or on your knees in just a moment. First, let's just set the scene. Charmane, for those who are struggling to picture the part of the world we're talking about, I think most people know broadly that the flower display is magnificent up the west coast and into the northern Cape. The camp we're talking about, the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp, is actually right on the coastline in the Namaqua National Park. Can you try and sort of give us a sense of where that is compared to Cape Town?
Absolutely. So you're quite right. We're in the Namaqua National Park at a place called Groenrivier right on the beach. We're probably about 6 or 7 hours or so from Cape Town. And it's just one of those places that are easily accessible. It is not too far from Garies or Bitterfontein. As you say, we're just open for 4 weeks of the year, this year in particular from the 22nd of August through to the 14th of September. But it really is the most extraordinary national park if you consider the wildlife, the birds, the flowers, the pollinators, just incredible.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got permission to be there, because, Charmane, this is a national park, the Namaqua National Park. What did it take to get permission to go in and set up this camp as you do each year?
So as I said previously, we've been in the camp now 14 years, and we've just been awarded our second 5-year concession. So we had to go through the normal sand parks tenders and so on, and just absolutely blessed to be able to return once again. And we're looking forward to celebrating this new 5-year concession with our guests this year.
Okay. Now, let's talk about what the camp looks like, because I think people hear the word camp and then hear you say it's put down and tear down again afterwards after 4 weeks, and they probably have a very wrong perception of what that's going to look like. They might be thinking it's a couple of tents popped up with some very rudimentary features and it'll be rough and rustic camping. In fact, it's very much almost a glamping experience. I mean, they are tents, but they are tents with beds and electric blankets and all sorts of creature comforts inside them, not so?
Absolutely, yes. So we do have 15 tents. They're all ocean facing among the wildflowers, which is really lovely. And you're quite right, all the linen, electric blankets, all of that is included. Then, of course, we've got a lovely lounge and dining area where we have our meals, obviously your breakfast, your afternoon tea, your 3-course dinner is included. And you are literally right by the waves, so you can walk on the beach, you can walk among the flowers, you literally just go outside of your tent. I'm just thinking, if you wake up in the morning and you are served your tea and coffee, you can sit on your little veranda and watch the waves while you have your coffee, or you can sit on the rocks and enjoy sundowners, and that's all within a very short walking distance from your tent.
Okay, now, Charmane, let me just reintroduce you for the sake of anybody who's come into this conversation midway. Our guest on the line via Zoom, Charmane Johnston, who is the media and marketing person for Chiefs Tented Camps, who operate the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. As you've heard her tell us, this camp is erected for a mere 4 weeks per year. It is dismantled at the end of that 4-week session. And let's talk about that process, Charmane. You're in a national park. Obviously, you've got to be mindful of the footprint that you leave, that your visitors leave. You've got to be mindful of the conservation efforts underway in that park. What's involved in putting up a tented camp and taking it down again in a way that doesn't negatively impact the environment?
It's an interesting question, because that's literally what Chiefs Tented Camps does. Okay. We build camps which literally disappear, and in this case, that's what happens. So all the infrastructure is temporary, and we bring it in, we set it all up, and we leave without a trace. And I think that's really something that we're incredibly precious about, is treading very, very lightly. And we basically operate on standard campsites that we have booked every year. So we don't destroy any of the vegetation around us. We really encourage our guests to tread lightly as well, so that there's low impact when they explore the flowers. And of course, water usage is a biggie, so we make sure that we save water, so that the environment is not impacted. It is all about enjoying, appreciating, respecting this incredibly untouched environment. We really are there just to enjoy it and leave. And so it's quite an interesting operation when you literally just go there to build this for the 4 weeks, break it down, and head back to the warehouse. And it's all because the flowers are so magnificent. It's just the reason why we go there. It's really a privilege to see the flowers bloom every year.
Well, speaking of privilege, I'd love to hear from anybody listening today who's already had the privilege of visiting the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. If you've been that lucky person and would like to share with us what it was like to stay there, what you saw in the park, please do feel free to WhatsApp us on 072 567 1567. A couple of listener questions coming in about some of the logistics, so let's dive into those. Charmane, firstly, several people asking about access. You mentioned that it's an accessible park, but do you need a 4x4 vehicle to be able to reach this campsite, or can you come in a regular car?
You are welcome to come in a regular car. The access from the N7 to the Sandparks offices is a standard gravel road. So if you have a vehicle with good ground clearance, you can get there no problem. We do recommend that guests come in a 4x4 only because they get to enjoy the national park further down the coastline. So there are some very sandy sections, but it is absolutely beautiful. So if you can get access to those areas of the national park in a 4x4 vehicle, that's great. But really, you can arrive at the camp in a standard vehicle and still see the magnificent flowers just by walking around. You don't necessarily have to drive anywhere, which is really the beauty of the camp. The flowers are all around the camp. So we're talking about little veitjies, little vetplantjies, all that. So it's not necessary for you to have a 4x4, absolutely accessible for a standard vehicle.
Okay. And then you mentioned all those wonderful meals that are laid on as part of your package, the early morning coffee and rusks, the breakfast, the afternoon tea, and the 3-course dinner. Somebody asking whether you're allowed to self-cater at the camp. From what you've described, Charmane, it's a communal dining area. Can visitors use that dining space for their own catering, or is it very much a shared experience as laid on by you?
Yes, just very much a shared experience. So unfortunately, no self-catering. It's a completely private camp for our guests only, and that makes it really unique and special. It's really just quite intimate.
And someone who describes himself as asking for a friend wants to know, is there a liquor license at the camp, or do you bring your own?
No, we do have a liquor license. Okay. Yes, it's part of our concession. We have to comply with a number of rules and regulations, which we're happy to do. No problem there. So absolutely, we have a liquor license.
And that operates on a cash bar system, am I correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Linen and towels provided as part of the accommodation package in these gorgeous ensuite tents. Speaking of the ensuite, Charmane, ladies in particular, I know, always want to know the details of the ablutions and what they look like, because one camping site's luxury ablutions are not the same as another's. Won't you talk to us about the loos, the toilets, the water supply, etc.?
Absolutely. So all of our tents are en suite. So your little bathroom area is basically at the back of your tent. So you don't have to walk out of your tent at all. So completely private. We've got a chemical flush loo. We've got a basin. We've got hot bucket showers. So our wonderful staff will heat your water for you and then come and pour it in when you're ready for a shower. Most of our guests shower just before sundowners, because then the sun is still out and you're nice and warm. So very, very private. So you have you've got all the luxuries that you would have in any other place, and it's quite extraordinary to think that you're actually camping, but camping in a very luxurious way in the flowers. Yes.
Diana would like to know: is there any transport offered from Cape Town, or is there only the self-drive option?
Only the self-drive option. We've got some exciting developments on the horizon with regards to that, which we'll put on our website. But for now, it is self-drive, and generally that hasn't been a problem over the years. We've had lots of people that will fly into Cape Town or into Spring Park, hire a vehicle, and then pop across to us. And they won't just explore Namaqua, they'll explore the areas around it. So they make a complete flower journey across the Western Cape, which is just lovely.
Sounds divine. By the way, just to recap again, we're discussing the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. If anybody has follow-up questions of the kind we're hearing on the WhatsApp line, you're welcome to pop through a message to 072 567 1567. Before we talk about booking and costs, etc., just one more question from me, Charmane. To be able to fully enjoy the experience of the flowers, it's always helpful to have either a good book as a guide, or even better, a good human guide who can talk to you about what you're looking at and explain more of the story of how we come to experience this wonderful display. Do you have that kind of expertise in camp? Do you offer any kind of guided walks, or are there staff on duty who can help if somebody is a first-timer who really doesn't know what they're looking at?
Yes, we do. We've got staff on hand, and in particular Alan, who is always on hand to show the guests where the best flowers are. We've got a lovely map where we point the guests in the right direction, and the flowers bloom in different places and different pockets every year. So closer to the time, we'll know exactly where those flowers are, and we just point people in the right direction. We've got books, we've got brochures. We've got guidelines. We were very blessed to have Leon Kluge in our camp last year. I must tell you, he is just absolutely divine. And this year, we're very blessed to have Tanya Visser coming to our camp.
Amazing.
So she will also be in camp to guide our guests. So there is always somebody on hand to show you where the flowers are, what you can expect, what the unique features are of those flowers, and then of course all the pollinators, which we sometimes overlook, and those are really vital to this beautiful ecosystem.
Okay, well, Tanya is a voice that I think our listeners will know from our own gardening slot. She's been a fairly regular visitor over the years, so that's a good recommendation. Charmane, let's talk about costs. How much does it cost to stay per night? Is there any minimum number of nights you can stay? What else do we need to know?
So our costs are just over 4,000 Rand per person per night sharing. And obviously that includes your breakfast, your afternoon tea, and your 3-course dinner. Includes your tea and coffee served to your tent, all those lovely things. And we recommend that you don't spend less than 2 nights at the camp. We don't have a minimum night stay. But really, it's the kind of place that you don't just want to arrive and leave the next morning. You want to explore the areas, the area around the camp. So we recommend no less than a 2-night stay. And then our children policy is no kiddies under 5, but otherwise children older than that are more than welcome.
Okay, thank you. Renee asking whether you can accommodate a single person. I know you mentioned you've got 15 tents, and I know that the camp accommodates, I think it's 30 in total. Can you accommodate a single booking?
Absolutely, yes. Our single guests are more than welcome, and they visit our camp on a very regular basis. That rate is just over 6,000 Rand per person single.
Okay, so it's at an extra cost, but you have the whole tent to yourself.
Correct.
Okay. And then on the other side of that question, a listener asking whether you can take an entire group booking. And Michelle asking, do you have any family tents? So let's talk about the larger groups.
So generally what we would do if there is a family, we can accommodate an extra child in a tent. Otherwise, if it's a bigger family, mom and dad would then book 2 tents, and they would split the kids up between the 2 tents. We've had weddings, we've had engagement parties, we've had birthdays, special 50ths and so on. We've had lots of kids bring in their older folks. So, 80, 70. So it is accessible for an older person. So it's really open to anybody. It really is.
It is a very unique way of experiencing the flowers. It is also a very limited experience. So just to remind you again, this camp is only there for 4 weeks from late August to September, and the dates this year from 22 August to 14 September. Have you sold out already, Charmane, or are there still some opportunities to book for the coming flower season?
There are some opportunities to book. We have got 4 days that are sold out, but people can contact me directly, or they can go onto our website and they'll be able to see what availability there is. But it's definitely selling out quite fast, which is lovely.
And that website, let me just check, is chiefstentedcamps.co.za. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's the one website. The other one that they can go to is flowercamps.co.za. flowercamps.co.za.
Charmane, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we hope it is a bountiful season of floral display this year so that every visitor gets a really beautiful experience at the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. Thank you so much for joining us to share the news about it.
Thank you so much, Pippa. Much appreciated.
Great pleasure to have you with us. Charmane Johnston, media and marketing person for the Chiefs Tented Camps, who operate the Namaqua Flower Beach Camp. Once again, only open this year from the 22nd of August.